Good evening, everyone. We will today study about the topic excretion in human process. In previous lectures, we have studied about nutrition, respiration, and circulation of the human body. Now, today we will study about the excretion in human body. What do you mean by excretion and why excretion is needed? As we know, in a living body, certain kind of metabolism is there, and during this metabolism, waste products are produced. And these waste products are very toxic for our human body as they might be harmful to the human body or they might disrupt the pH balance or might cause a disturbance of the body's internal mechanism. So to get rid of this, we need to excrete out the waste material, and this is done by the process named as excretion. Now, what are the types of the waste materials, or how many types of waste material are there in general? There are three main types. This is nitrogenous waste, such as urea, uric acid, creatinine. This nitrogenous waste are produced due to the breakdown of the protein. That is, in nutrition, we take certain kind of diet, and in that diet, the protein molecules that we absorbed or take in, when that protein molecules breaks down by the process of respiration, it produces certain waste, and that waste are nitrogenous waste. What are the name? Urea, uric acid, and creatinine. In human, the urea is the main waste that we need to excrete out of the body. Now, what is the second type of the waste? It is carbon dioxide. How we excrete out the carbon dioxide from the body? We excrete the carbon dioxide by the process named as respiration. As we have discussed earlier in our previous topics, we take in the oxygen and we breathe out the carbon dioxide. So this very simple mechanism, we excrete out the carbon dioxide. Now, what is the third type of the waste material? It is the excess water, salts, or etc. In our diet, if we take in some substances in higher quantity, then that extra quantity is excreted out by the body through the process of excretion. Now, these three are the major types of the waste. What are these? Nitrogenous waste, carbon dioxide, and excess water, and salts, etc. Now, moving on, what are the major waste product? That is a nitrogenous waste product. First is the urea, uric acid, creatinine, and excess water. These are the waste products that are mainly excreted out by the process of excretion. Now, how the urea is produced? Urea is produced in the liver due to the breakdown of protein. And how uric acid is produced? Uh, when a nucleic acid undergoes metabolism, uric acid is produced. How creatinine is produced? Creatinine is produced from the muscle metabolism. And the excess water and salt are due to the diet part. Okay, these are the main products that are being excreted out with the process of excretion. In humans, what are the excretory organs? The excretory organs are kidneys, liver, skin, and etc., which we will talk about later. What is the main excretory organ of our human body? It is kidney. Here is a schematic representation of kidney. As you can see, there are two bean-shaped structures. What are these bean-shaped structures named as? This bean-shaped structure is named as the kidney. They are 10 to 12 centimeter long each, and they reside in the lower abdomen on both the side of the spine. That is, if it is a spine, then they reside in opposite directions. Okay. What is the function of a kidney? As we know that in circulation, the blood acts as a connective fluid connective tissue. So in this fluid connective tissue, I have mentioned that it carries in carbon dioxide, oxygen, nutrients, growth hormones, etc. And even it carries the waste material. So this waste material needs to come to the kidney for the filtration. And this kidney's function is to filter out the blood and take out the waste materials from the body, and this waste material will filter it out from the kidney, and then it travel to the urinary bladder where it is temporarily stored, and after some durations we empty out our bladder with the help of urethra. The urethra is guarded by the sphincter muscle. The sphincter muscle is a special kind of muscle that is guarded around the area of the urethra. This helps us in controlling and deciding when we will excrete out the urine material, the urine that is deposited in the bladder. Now coming back to the structure of a kidney, these two bean-shaped structures are named as a kidney. Now, what are the parts of a structure of the human excretory system? What are the parts? The parts are kidney, ureter, urinary bladder, and urethra. This ureter connects the kidneys with the bladder. That whatever the filtration happens in the kidney, the urine gets formed, and that urine travels from the kidney to the bladder by the ureters. It carries the urine by peristaltic movement. What do you mean by peristaltic movement? Peristaltic movement is a special type of movement that happens in the vessels, in which the vessel contracts and relaxes. Suppose if this is the vessel, then some part of it will have the contraction, will observe contraction, and another part will relax. That is, it will bulge out or this area will increase, and hence the whatever material that is flowing inside the vessel, it will flow like a wave. This special type of movement is known as a peristaltic movement. Now, what is a urinary bladder? Urinary bladder is an elastic muscular sac. It is elastic in nature. It is a muscular sac which acts as a temporary storage for the urine. What is the capacity of a urinary bladder? It is 300 to 500 ml of urine it can store. It is a capacity of the urine. It is a capacity of the bladder. Now, after the bladder gets filled, we pass out the urine through the urethra. The urethra has special muscles known as the sphincter muscle, which guards the urethra and guards it, and it helps us to decide when we will perform the excretion and other parts. It acts as a gate or a valve. We have learned about the valve in our previous classes. Imagine the sphincter muscle like the same. It acts as a valve. Now moving on to the next part, we will study about the structure of a kidney. What are the parts of a kidney? Renal cortex, renal medulla, and renal pelvis. Renal cortex. This one is the outer region of a kidney. As you can see, this is the structure of a kidney, and it can be further divided into outer, middle, and inner region. Likewise, it is divided renal cortex, renal medulla, and renal pelvis. Renal cortex is the outer region. It contains glomerulus and Bowman capsule. What is a glomerulus? A glomerulus is a network of capillaries. And what is a Bowman capsule? It's a cup-shaped like structure situated just below the glomerulus. What happens is that the blood that flows into the glomerulus flows in a very high blood pressure. So what happens? Whatever the liquid part is there in the glomerulus, it gets filtered out and it is flows into the Bowman capsule. This Bowman capsule acts like a cup that whatever the filtrate that's coming from the glomerulus or whatever the leaking of the blood is happening in the glomerulus, it collects it. That is why it is regarded as a cup-shaped structure. Now, moving on to the next, we have renal medulla. Renal medulla is the inner region. Where is renal medulla? This is the renal medulla. These cup-shaped structures are regarded as a renal medulla in the kidney. Now, what it contains? It contains the loop of Henle, and the collecting ducts. We will discuss about this later in this video. Now, moving on to the next topic, next structure, that is a renal pelvis. Renal pelvis is a funnel shaped like structure. It is the innermost region of a kidney. As you can see, this one is the outer region, this one is the middle region, and this one is the innermost region of the kidney. This is a funnel shaped structure. That is what joins the outer and the inner region. As you can see, the whole structure gets narrowed into a funnel-like structure. This renal pelvis is funnel-shaped. It collects the urine. Whatever filtration happens in between the renal cortex and renal medulla. It collects the urine and passes it to the ureters. So the ureter, it flows to the urinary bladder. That's the story of the parts of a kidney. Now moving on, we have nephron. This is a schematic representation of nephron. What are nephron? Nephron is a functional unit of kidney. As you can see, there is an afferent arteriole and efferent arteriole. Then there is glomerulus, Bowman capsule, PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, a distal convoluted tubule, and collecting duct. Nephron has two main parts. They are renal corpuscle and renal tubule. So the parts of nephron. Now, the renal corpuscle is made up of the glomerulus and the Bowman capsule. This one is a renal corpuscle, or also known as the Malpighian body. And what is the renal tubule? It's made up of proximal convoluted tubule, loop of Henle, distal convoluted tubule, and collecting duct. Each kidney contains 1 to 1.5 million of nephron. 1 to 1.5 million of nephron in each kidney. So you can imagine how much of filtration is occurring in our body. They are packed in a structure in a very small bean shaped. As I have mentioned, the kidney is 10 to 12 centimeter long. So you can imagine how many nephrons are there in each kidney. Now, coming back to the topic, the blood comes in from the afferent arteriole. This is one is A, and leaves the efferent arteriole. The afferent arteriole brings in the blood to the glomerulus, where the ultrafiltration occurs. We will study about the urine formation after explaining all this. Here the ultrafiltration occurs. This is the glomerulus. This one is the glomerulus. Here the ultrafiltration occurs, and then whatever the filtrate comes to the Bowman capsule. In the glomerulus, the blood is coming in a very high blood pressure. That's why the filtration is regarded as an ultrafiltration. And this ultrafiltration is very efficient. And after the blood passes to the glomerulus, it leaves the kidney to the efferent arteriole. It leaves the nephron to efferent arteriole. The filtrate comes in the Bowman capsule. From the Bowman capsule, it then flows to the PCT, or proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal convoluted tubule. After passing through the PCT, it then goes to the loop of Henle. This one is a loop of Henle. This U-shaped or hairpin-like structure, after passing through the loop of Henle, it then goes to the DCT, or distal convoluted tubule. Distal convoluted tubule. And then it finally goes to the collecting duct, and whatever filtrate is coming out of the collecting duct, it is regarded as a urine. This whole process, urine formation takes place. Now we will see the urine formation in a very detailed manner. Urine formation occurs in three stages. First one is filtration. Second one is absorption or reabsorption. And third is secretion. Step 0. Blood enters the nephron. The blood enters the nephron to the afferent arteriole, then it goes into the glomerulus, and the blood leaves the glomerulus with the help of efferent arteriole. Here, the blood is flowing in a very high blood pressure. That's why filtration occurs, and this filtration is regarded as ultrafiltration. By the process of ultrafiltration, the blood again goes back, but the liquid part of the blood, or the filtrate part of the blood, filtrate is collected in the Bowman capsule. After passing into the Bowman capsule, step 1 is a ultrafiltration or glomerular filtration. Step 0 is the blood enters. Step 1 is the ultrafiltration, and step 2 is the reabsorption. Do you think that whatever filtrate it's collected in the Bowman capsule is all waste material? I hope so you don't, because we produce around 180 liter of filtrate. Do we produce that amount of urine? Absolutely not. So we know that this amount of filtrate contains high quantity of water, some useful materials that needs to be reabsorbed by the body. And who does that? It is done with the help of renal tubule. When the blood passes to the proximal convoluted tubule, it reabsorbs water, glucose, any nutrients if present, and salts. The filtrate that passes to the Bowman capsule does not contain in the glomerular filtration. Glomerular filtrate does not contain any blood cells or proteins. Rest all other things such as water, salt, urea, waste material are passed through the it passes through the filtrate. The filtrate then passes on the PCT. In PCT, the water, glucose, nutrient and salts are reabsorbed by the body. The substances which are deemed to be necessary by the body are reabsorbed in PCT and leukophilin. These two are associated with the reabsorption part. Now, the step 3 is a secretion. It mainly happens in the DCT. What happens is that the body secretes certain kind of toxic materials into the urine or whatever the filtrate that is passed from the leukophilin. Let it call it as a filtrate 2. The DCT releases certain kind of toxins in the filtrate 2 such as H plus ion, K plus ion, and to some extent of urea. Why? To maintain the pH of the urine and to maintain the concentration of the urine, the secretion is associated with. Now, after the secretion, it passes into the collecting duct. This collecting duct then again joins the urethra, and the urethra passes it to the passes the urine. Now, what is the composition of urine? It contains 95% of water, urea, some salts, etc. This is the composition of the urine. It contains uric acid also. Whatever the nitrogenous waste is produced, it gets passed to the urea. Now, how much quantity of urine is produced in an average healthy adult? About 1 to 1.8 liter of urine is produced per day. In an average healthy adult. Now, what is the role of a liver in excretion? We know that liver also functions as a kind of excretory organ. What is the role of the excretion? As I have mentioned before, in protein metabolism, ammonia is produced. This ammonia is very toxic to the body. It needs to be converted into something less toxic. This is urea. This conversion of ammonia into urea is known as the urea cycle. It is done in the liver. This urea is less toxic as compared to ammonia. Now, what happens if ammonia only passes through it? It's the same thing. No. If the ammonia is present even in a very minute quantities in the blood, it can cause certain diseases. And these diseases might be even fatal. That's why it gets converted into urea, into less toxic form. So the liver. This whole process is known as the urea cycle. Now, in certain kind of people, the kidney doesn't function, or the kidney cannot filtrate the blood. So what is the solution for those people? It is the artificial kidney or the dialysis. It is done 2 to 3 times per week. What happens is that in a dialysis, one ureter is attached to a dialysis machine, and that from the artery, the blood passes into the dialysis machine, and the dialysis machine does the filtration purpose of the kidney, and that the filtered blood is again entered into the body through another vein or artery. This whole process is known as a dialysis. This usage of the some artificial structure or some artificial machines is known as an artificial kidney. This is regarded as an artificial kidney. It is mainly observed in the older humans, in older such as our grandfather or grandmother, in where the kidney fails to function. In those adults, blood passes to the kidney or certain kind of nutrients passes to the kidney, such as glucose or other thing, which is not very healthy. Or in some cases, some people even remove their kidneys due to some difficulties. In those, the dialysis is done, and it is done 2 to 3 times per week. Now, what are the other excretory organs of our body? It is lungs. It excretes out carbon dioxide and water vapor. Another is the skin. It excretes out in the through sweat. So the sweat glands. And the third is the liver. It excretes out the urea. It converts ammonia into urea. which we have discussed earlier in the urea cycle. Now, we we have mentioned about the role of the lungs in the respiration, that it excrete out the carbon dioxide and the water vapor. Hence, it is also considered as an excretory organ. How skin is considered as an excretory organ? We have certain glands known as the sweat glands. What they does, they excrete out water, certain amount of urea from the body in the disguise of sweat. Now there is a misconception that sweat are contains odor. Is actually a myth. The sweat are odorless. Now how, if it continues to sweat down, a very bad odor comes from the body. Why that happens? Because in our skin there are certain kind of bacteria, and whatever the sweat contains, the composition of the sweat contains very little percentage of protein also, and that the bacteria feeds on that protein, and that produces the fat metabolism, and it produces ammonia also to some extent, and that causes the odor of the sweat. Now, what are the disorders of the excretion? Kidney stone, glycosuria. It happens mainly in the diabetes mellitus. Kidney stone are the calcium deposits in the kidney. There is a calcium deposit in the kidney. Consider it as a kidney. If there is any calcium deposit in the kidney, then it is gets stored in the organ, and these are regarded as a kidney stone. It interrupts the normal filtration of the blood, and hence it interrupts the excretion process, and thus the waste material starts to accumulate in the blood, and we function certain kind of dysfunctions such as toxic materials gets built up in the body, and this is considered as one of the most threatening disorder of the excretory system. Second is a glycosuria. If the glucose is present in the urine, that is, glucose is lost or excreted along with urine, it is considered as glycosuria. Glycosuria is a common symptom in diabetes mellitus. What happens is that whatever glucose is present in the blood, in the filtration process or in the reabsorption process, the body cannot reabsorb the glucose back into the blood, and hence the glucose gets excreted by the urine. Uh, in patients of having diabetes mellitus, it's a common symptom. They will urinate at a much frequent they will urinate much frequently, and the thrust level of a average healthy human is in a person having diabetes mellitus, they will have a higher level of thrust. They will drink more water requirement. Is present in the patient having diabetes mellitus, and the urine will have a sweet smell due to the glucose present. What are the other diseases? It is uremia and nephritis. Uremia happens if urea passes along with the, if urea is present in the blood, that is, it is not excreted out properly, then the condition is regarded as a uremia. And nephritis is an inflammation of nephron. If the nephron gets inflamed, the filtration doesn't take place adequately or efficiently, and hence there is a blockage in the filtration, or there's a the whatever the waste materials that were supposed to get passed away, it gets accumulated in the blood, and hence disease gets formed. The waste materials are toxic in nature and is very important to be excreted out. If there is any blockage, or if there is any situation that arises that blocks this natural phenomena, will lead to disorders. Now, have you ever noticed that if we take in more water, then we urinate much frequently? Why that happens? Urination is controlled by a hormone known as ADH, antidiuretic hormone. It is produced in hypothalamus and secreted by the posterior pituitary. The ADH is associated with the osmoregulation of a body. What is the osmoregulation? Osmoregulation is the regulation of the water balance in the body. What happens if more ADH is produced by the posterior pituitary? If more ADH is produced, the more water is reabsorbed and less urine is produced. That is, urine is concentrated. Urine gets concentrated. In case of less ADH, less water is reabsorbed and more urine is produced. That is, urine is diluted. When we take in more water, then less ADH is produced, and due to this, less water is reabsorbed as there is a large quantity of water, and hence the urine gets diluted. But in the case when we take a negligible amount of water, then more ADH is released by the gland, and more water is reabsorbed, because in the body it is having a water scarcity and it cannot lose its water by the process of excretion, and hence more water is reabsorbed and less urine is produced and the urine gets concentrated. That's it for today. Thank you.